So this past Monday, my local theater's Monday movie mystery was listed as 110 minutes, and of all the blockbuster releases, I could only narrow down two possible choices, Mufasa and Sonic 3. So I hoped for the best, planned for the worst, and when the movie started, the Paramount logo came up, but there were no rings replacing stars. I instantly got confused, but once I saw that it was September 5, I took a massive sigh of relief, and then just tensed up as the rest of the movie went on. For those who don't know, September 5 recreates the ABC Sports News crew consisting of Jeffrey Mason, played by John Magaro, Rune Ulrich, played by Peter Sarsgaard, and translator Marianne Gibard, played by Leonie Benesch. Apologies if I got either of those names wrong. Among many others, as they cover the hostage crisis in Munich during the 1984 Summer Olympics. I had no idea this was even a movie until I went to see Here, and this was one of the trailers that played, but the idea to portray this story in one location as these reporters are discovering and relaying the facts in real time was such a suspenseful idea that I instantly wanted to check it out. But I should warn some people, because 90 to 95% of this movie takes place in this one location, there's more pressure on it to be claustrophobic, where the suspense comes from these characters watching and listening to these events unfold. And there are going to be some times where the audience might wish that there were more scenes from the point of view of the camera crew or the reporters who are out on the field, potentially in the crossfire. There's even one really good scene where a character leaves the studio, goes up on the balcony in order to watch a helicopter, and the shift from watching the events on a TV screen to being out in the field was just palpable. It made me wonder if more scenes like that might have made it a more consistently engaging thriller, but nevertheless, I can honestly say I felt my heartbeat throughout the majority of this film. The nicest thing I can say about September 5th is that the event itself feels like the main character of the film, and they accomplished that by having the acting, writing, directing, editing, and music all go hand in hand without one ever overshadowing the other. Director Tim Fehlbaum's visual style is comparable to Paul Greengrass, with lots of close-up handheld camera work and edits that are quick but not rapid in order to recreate the spontaneous, unpredictable nature of this situation. The muted color palette, underexposed lighting captures the moody 80s atmosphere flawlessly, and the production designers, from what I understand, went out of their way to create an exact replica of the studio ABC Sports used in Munich, which is really important because while they do hire an actor to voice Peter Jennings when he's out on the field, and the scenes where you can only hear his voice through a phone that's shot in a close-up are so intense because whatever he's reporting forces you to visualize in your head how it's playing out. Whenever they have to show Jennings or Jim McKay on air, it's actual footage of them reporting that day. In fact, every time they cut back and forth between real-life footage of the incident to the casters in the film silently watching in fear, those were the most suspenseful parts of the film. The editing wisely knows when to cut to the actor's silence in order to convey the suspense, or when to let the eerie musical score drive the tone. It also knows this is the rare movie where nearly every line of dialogue being exposition actually makes the story more intriguing, because whether you're like me and never studied this in history class because Canada, it didn't involve us, or you saw coverage of it back in the day, these reporters are learning every single detail as it happens, and they have to relay it back to one another in order to make sure they get a clear, concise, and true story. But you need great actors to deliver these lines in a way that doesn't feel rehearsed, and not only does the cast do a great job at that, they portray these characters with as little backstory as possible so seamlessly, to the point where I love the fact that even though they're the sports team, you forget that about them 5 to 10 minutes into their coverage. That's how good a job they do. They are so dialed into their profession, their responsibility towards the real-life subject and the audience, that they cut from camera to camera in the newsroom or out on the field so quick, calm, and precise, like they've been under this pressure a million times before, while still being laser focused on every TV screen or microphone in order to make sure that they have all the details and that it goes as according to plan as possible. And don't get me wrong, they make as many mistakes as they do successes. It costs them dearly, and on this day more than ever, they have to learn the hard way that no matter how good a job they do, nothing ever goes fully to plan. Obviously, the most fictional aspect is these characters start off unfamiliar and slightly hostile towards one another, but they grow stronger as a team the longer this coverage goes on. But there are so many small details that show growth of even the most minor characters that are so genuine and well-earned. There's one scene where a guy sends the translator to get them some coffee right when they needed her to translate a police scanner. Very next scene, he gets her a cup of coffee while she's working instead. Small details like that make such a huge difference. Again, apologies if I get these names wrong, but John Magaro and Leonie Benesch were easily the major standouts. Magaro, in my opinion, has never been better. I loved him so much more in this than past lives, anything I've seen him in, but both these characters are initially misunderstood for different reasons. Mason's a rookie producer with little hands-on experience, and Marianne is German working with an American crew, so naturally some of the American casters who are Jewish just walk up to her and go, "Let me guess, your parents didn't know, right?" But both these characters take, 1, a lot of shit, 2, the initiative, and pull their weight to show their true capability. Whenever Mason's intelligence is questioned, he answers back like he was just begging for them to ask. And whenever Marianne is posed that one question, her instant response, "I'm not my parents," instantly shuts people up. But neither of these two prove anyone wrong out of a need for revenge or validation. Their sole focus is on reporting the news live as accurate and fast as possible. Peter Sarsgaard and Ben Chaplin aren't in this a ton, and when they are, their dialogue can be more cinematic than grounded. Sarsgaard in particular was more theatrical than he needed to be, but like every character in this, they come in and out of the movie only when they serve the story, and during their more quiet, somber moments, they have a lot to ponder regarding the ethics of journalism. If and when someone gets shot live on air, is it going to be their fault for pointing the camera at the people who are responsible for it? Now, I did say I could consistently feel my heart beating for most of the movie, and that is true, but in the first half, there were several slower parts where it took a while to really get going because they're trying to establish who each character was and why they're vital to the script, but once they show coverage of police on the scene, that's where things really get white-knuckling, and there are moments of comic relief thrown in there that I can't say were inappropriate. In fact, they did add levity whenever someone was strapping rolls of film to their chest in order to sneak out, or everybody drinking a beer in celebration of things supposedly de-escalating. I just didn't think the material itself was that funny. I was smiling, but I didn't laugh like I felt I should have. I'll end my review on this note. September 5th, as I'm making this review, hasn't even come out yet, but because of current events, this movie's already being criticized just for existing, but since I've actually seen the damn movie, I can safely say it's a tense, well-acted, well-directed thriller about one incident in history. This movie doesn't side with any country, religion, ideology, any of that. It just portrays the newscasters and archive footage of this real event as it occurred. So my advice would be to either watch the movie first, then judge it for yourself, or just avoid it and don't judge it at all. It's really up to you, but we don't get that many historical thrillers that are just this suspenseful and entertaining and well-made that I do highly recommend you check it out whenever it comes to theaters, or if it comes to theaters, because rumor has it Toronto International Film Festival refused to even consider this as a possibility, even though it picked some other options. Allegedly, of course. But with that, guys, thanks as always for watching. If you have seen September 5th, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Be sure to stay tuned for more reviews. Be sure to check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee. And be sure to like and subscribe. Take care.